The entire restaurant fell silent the moment everyone noticed the thick stack of cash lying on the corner of a billionaire's table. $10,000. Enough to change someone's life. Enough to feed a struggling family for months. Waiters whispered. Guests stared. Some wondered if it had been forgotten. Others thought it was a test. But no one dared touch it. Then, from the far side of the elegant restaurant, a little girl in faded clothes slowly walked toward the table. She couldn't have been older than 8. Her worn shoes barely made a sound against the polished marble floor. In one hand she held a small handmade envelope covered with tiny flowers drawn in colored pencil. In the other, she pointed quietly toward the forgotten money. Everyone expected her to grab it and run. Instead, she did something that left every person in the restaurant speechless, and before the day was over, the billionaire would make a decision that changed both of their lives forever. Her name was Lily. She lived with her widowed father, Daniel, in a tiny rented apartment on the edge of the city. Daniel worked long hours repairing bicycles, earning just enough to pay rent and buy simple meals. Every evening, Lily waited outside the repair shop, finishing her homework on an old wooden bench while her father tightened rusty chains and patched flat tires. They didn't have much, but Daniel always reminded her, a person without money can still be rich if they never lose their honesty. That Saturday afternoon, Daniel received a call asking him to repair the bicycle of a restaurant employee during his lunch break. Lily came along because she loved watching people dressed in elegant clothes, imagining what their stories might be. While Daniel worked outside near the service entrance, Lily wandered only a few steps into the bright restaurant lobby, fascinated by the sparkling chandeliers and beautiful flowers. Inside, billionaire entrepreneur Richard Bennett had just finished an important meeting. Before leaving, he accidentally left a neatly bundled stack of cash on the table. It was intended for a charitable donation he planned to deliver later that day. Distracted by an urgent phone call, he walked out with his advisors, unaware that the money remained behind. Within moments, several guests noticed it. One whispered, "Someone should tell the manager." Another quietly reached toward the table before thinking better of it. Waiters exchanged nervous glances, unsure whose responsibility it was. Then Lily noticed the money. She didn't understand exactly how much it was, but she knew it belonged to someone else. Instead of touching the cash, she searched the room until she found a blank napkin. Taking the small envelope she had made that morning, a thank you card for her father, she carefully slipped the napkin underneath it so the air conditioner wouldn't blow it away. Then she politely asked a waiter, "Excuse me. I think someone forgot something very important." The waiter hurried over and froze. The cash was untouched. Within minutes, security located Richard Bennett before he reached his car. Curious, Richard returned. As he entered the restaurant, every eye followed him. The manager pointed toward Lily. "Sir," he said softly, "she's the one who found your money." Richard looked at the little girl. "You didn't take any of it?" he asked gently. Lily shook her head. "My daddy says if something isn't ours, it can never make us happy." The restaurant became completely silent. Richard smiled. "What were you planning to do with this envelope?" Lily looked embarrassed. "It's for my dad." She handed him the handmade envelope. Inside was a folded piece of paper. In colorful handwriting it read, "Thank you for fixing everyone's broken things, even when nobody notices how tired you are. You're my hero." Richard read it twice. Then he quietly folded it again. His eyes filled with emotion. For years he had donated millions to charities, But no expensive gift had ever carried as much love as that tiny handmade letter. He looked toward the restaurant entrance where Daniel was wiping grease from his hands after finishing the bicycle repair. "Is that your father?" Lily nodded proudly. Richard walked outside. Daniel immediately apologized, thinking Lily had caused trouble. "I'm so sorry, sir. If she disturbed anyone." Richard interrupted with a smile. "Your daughter reminded an entire room what honesty looks like." Daniel looked confused. Richard explained everything. Daniel's face turned pale. He knelt beside Lily. "You did exactly what I hoped you would." Richard turned toward the restaurant manager. "I've made many investments," he said. "But today I found one worth making." Over lunch, Richard learned about Daniel's struggling repair shop, the overdue rent, and Lily's dream of becoming an engineer one day so she could invent bicycles that children everywhere could afford. Instead of simply handing them money, Richard offered Daniel something far more valuable. He invested in Daniel's repair business, helping him open a modern bicycle workshop with proper equipment, training, and new employees. Daniel insisted on repaying every dollar. Richard smiled. "I know you will." Months passed. The tiny repair shop became one of the city's most trusted businesses. Daniel hired young apprentices who needed work. Customers returned because they knew every repair would be done honestly. Meanwhile, Lily excelled in school. Richard quietly created a scholarship in her name that would support her education through university, as long as she continued showing the same integrity she had shown that afternoon. Years later, Lily graduated at the top of her engineering class. She designed affordable bicycles for children in underserved communities, making safe transportation accessible to thousands of families. At the grand opening of her first manufacturing center, reporters asked her the secret behind her success. She smiled. "It started with money that never belonged to me." The audience laughed softly. Then she continued. "My father taught me that honesty sometimes feels expensive in the moment, but it's always worth more than whatever you're tempted to keep." Standing in the front row, Richard applauded with pride. He never forgot the day a little girl walked past $10,000 without taking a single bill. Because she didn't just return money. She restored something many adults had forgotten, that character is the greatest wealth anyone can possess. And on that ordinary afternoon inside a bright restaurant, a handmade envelope from a little girl proved far more valuable than the stack of cash lying beside it. Sometimes, the greatest fortunes aren't found in what we keep, they're found in the choices we make when no one expects us to do the right thing. Those choices can change a life, inspire a community, and become a legacy that lasts far longer than money ever could.